In the heart of Accra, a city full of vibrant life and activity, there was a cozy neighborhood where two families lived side by side. These two families, the Mensahs and the Ajimangs, had known each other for many years. The bond between them was rare, not just because of the closeness of their homes but because of the closeness of their hearts. It was a connection that went beyond mere friendship, it felt like family. They shared countless moments together, from celebrating festive seasons to helping each other through challenging times. Joseph, aged 13, the only son of Mr. and Mrs. Mensah, had always stood out in the neighborhood. He was different from the other children, not in a bad way but in the way he approached the world around him. Joseph was a curious boy, always asking questions that most people wouldn't think to ask. He was constantly searching for answers, wanting to understand how everything worked, from the simplest of objects to the mysteries of the universe. His parents, recognizing his inquisitive nature, encouraged his thirst for knowledge, often providing him with books and tools to nurture his mind. Across the street lived Zainab, a girl of the same age as Joseph. Zainab was clever and thoughtful, often seen with a book in her hand or deep in conversation with her parents. Unlike Joseph, Zainab was more introspective, always thinking before she spoke. Despite their differences, Joseph and Zainab had been the best of friends for as long as either of them could remember. Their friendship had grown from childhood games of hide and seek and tag to long, meaningful conversations about everything and nothing. It was a bond built on mutual respect, trust, and a shared understanding that the world was full of things waiting to be explored. The two families had always been there for one another, whether it was to celebrate birthdays or support each other during difficult times. The Mensahs and the Ajimangs would often gather together for weekend barbecues, family dinners, or just simple visits to each other's homes. These moments were filled with laughter, love, and a sense of belonging that only close-knit families could understand. For Joseph and Zainab, these shared moments with their families were everything. They had grown up together, learning from each other and shaping their personalities in the process. They had also learned the value of friendship, the importance of looking out for one another, and the strength that came from standing together through thick and thin. It was a friendship that had withstood the test of time and was as natural as breathing. Their parents often joked that Joseph and Zainab were like siblings, always in each other's company, always looking out for each other. The two spent so much time together that it was rare to find one without the other. From morning until evening, they could be found in the streets, playing games, running errands for their parents, or simply sitting on Joseph's veranda, talking about their dreams, their fears, and the future. Despite the world around them changing, their friendship remained constant. The bustling city knew to grow and evolve, but in their small corner of it, Joseph and Zainab felt like time stood still. They were in a world of their own, filled with the comfort of shared memories and the excitement of discovering new things together. One warm afternoon, as the sun cast long shadows on the ground, Joseph and Zainab were sitting on the veranda of Joseph's house, their backs resting against the cool stone wall. The air was filled with the sounds of distant voices, the occasional honking of car horns, and the laughter of children playing down the street. It was a peaceful moment, a moment that would mark the beginning of something they could not yet understand. As they sat there, chatting casually about school and the things that had caught their attention that day, little did they know that this was the calm before the storm. This was the moment before their lives would change, before something strange and unexpected would enter their world. But for now, they were just two friends, content in their simple, shared life in the heart of Accra. Joseph was the beloved only child of Mr. and Mrs. Mensah, and their love for him knew no bounds. As parents, they wanted nothing but the best for him. They were proud of the young boy he was becoming, always asking questions and seeking to understand the world around him. His curiosity was insatiable, and it brought a sense of joy to his parents to see him so engaged with learning. They often spoke about how their son was going to grow up to do great things, to become someone who would make a difference in the world. One day, after much discussion and thought, Mr. and Mrs. Mensah decided to give Joseph a gift. It was a gift they believed would open new doors for him, a tool that would connect him to the world in ways they could not. They had noticed how much Joseph enjoyed learning about new things, whether it was through books, conversations, or even the occasional gadget. They had also seen how fascinated he was by the world of technology, always intrigued by the way things worked. So, after much deliberation, they decided to give him a sleek, modern smartphone. The phone was not just an ordinary gift. It was a bridge to the future, a way for Joseph to stay connected to the world beyond his neighborhood. It would give him access to knowledge, entertainment, and communication, all in the palm of his hand. To his parents, it was a sign of their commitment to his growth and development. They believed that in the digital age, having a smartphone would allow Joseph to explore new ideas, access information instantly, and engage with the world in a way that they could not have imagined at his age. When the phone was finally handed to him, Joseph's eyes lit up with excitement. It was more than he had ever expected. The sleek design, the smooth touch of the screen, and the endless possibilities that came with it were almost overwhelming. His parents smiled, knowing that this gift would bring him endless joy, but also help him grow in ways they hoped to nurture. They explained to him how to use it responsibly, how it was a tool that should be used wisely for both fun and learning. They made it clear that while it was a gift of freedom and exploration, it also came with the responsibility to stay focused on what truly mattered. Joseph immediately started exploring the phone, excited by the endless possibilities that it presented. At first, like most children, he used it for entertainment. He downloaded games, watched videos, and explored social media, marveling at how quickly he could connect with people from all over the world. He and Zainab spent hours together, sitting on the veranda, laughing at the funny videos they found and sharing their thoughts on the things they had discovered. It felt like a whole new world had opened up to them, and they dove into it with enthusiasm. Zainab, ever the curious one herself, was equally fascinated by the phone. Though she was more reserved than Joseph, she loved exploring new ideas and learning about things she had never encountered before. Together, they watched viral videos, followed trends, and laughed at the silliness of it all. It was an exciting time, and their days were filled with endless entertainment. It seemed like the phone was the key to a world of joy, a place where anything was possible. But while Joseph and Zainab were engrossed in the entertainment side of the phone, Joseph's mind began to wander. As he scrolled through the screen, he began to think about the possibilities beyond games and social media. There was so much more to this device than what they had discovered so far. The phone was a window to a vast world of information, a world where knowledge could be accessed at the touch of a button. Joseph felt like there was something more waiting to be uncovered, something beyond the surface. Zainab, sensing Joseph's shift in focus, smiled and nudged him playfully. She was content in their shared world of laughter and fun, but she could see that Joseph was always looking for something deeper. She respected his curiosity and often followed his lead when it came to exploring new things. She was intrigued by the way his mind worked, the way he could take something simple and turn it into something profound. She knew that Joseph's journey with the phone was just beginning, and she was eager to see where it would take him. For now, though, they continued to enjoy their afternoons together, lost in the endless world of the phone. They were unaware that soon, something strange would capture their attention, something that would pull them into a world neither of them was prepared for. But that would come later. For now, they were simply two friends, enjoying the thrill of discovering a new piece of technology and all the excitement it had to offer. The sun was starting to dip below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the quiet neighborhood of Accra. The streets, once bustling with the sounds of people and the hum of activity, now seemed to settle into a peaceful silence as the evening rolled in. On Joseph's veranda, the two friends sat, their attention once again focused on the phone. They had spent countless hours exploring the device, watching videos, playing games, and scrolling through social media. But that evening, something was different. Joseph's finger, guided by an unexplainable curiosity, wandered across the screen and landed on an app that neither he nor Zainab had ever seen before. The app was hidden beneath a strange name, one that looked almost out of place compared to the others they had explored. It wasn't colorful or flashy like the games they played, nor was it as straightforward as the social media apps they followed. The icon was simple, almost cryptic, and something about it drew Joseph in. Without thinking, he tapped the app, and the phone screen flickered to life. At first, nothing seemed unusual. It was just a blank screen, followed by a series of images and videos that didn't make any sense. The pictures flashed by too quickly for them to focus on any one thing. Zainab glanced at Joseph, a hint of confusion on her face. "What is this?" she asked, her voice filled with both curiosity and caution. Joseph, equally unsure of what they were looking at, shrugged. "I don't know," he murmured, his eyes narrowing as he tried to make sense of the strange content. It seemed like a jumble of images, distorted faces, swirling patterns, and odd shapes that didn't quite fit together. There was no explanation, no context. It was just strange. Zainab leaned closer, her curiosity piqued. "Should we open it?" she asked hesitantly. Though she wasn't as easily intrigued by the unknown as Joseph was, there was something about this app that pulled at her too. It was almost as if it were calling them, beckoning them to explore further. With a quick nod, Joseph tapped the screen again, and the app responded, loading a new set of images. This time, the videos were different. They moved in erratic patterns, the figures in the videos twisting and contorting in ways that made no sense. The voices that accompanied the images were low and distorted, their words unintelligible. Joseph and Zainab sat in stunned silence, unsure of what they were watching. What is this?" Zainab whispered, her eyes wide with a mix of fascination and unease. The images seemed to pulse with an energy that felt both captivating and unsettling. There was something dark about it, something that made the air around them feel heavier, as though they had crossed into a different realm. "I don't know," Joseph replied, his voice barely audible. He gripped the phone tighter, unable to tear his eyes away from the screen. The more they watched, the more the strange videos seemed to pull them in, drawing them deeper into a world they couldn't understand. It was as if they had stumbled upon something hidden, something that wasn't meant to be found. Zainab shivered, though the evening air was warm. "Joseph, we should probably stop," she said, her voice shaky. There was a sense of foreboding settling over her, a feeling that they had crossed a line. But Joseph, lost in the strange allure of the videos, didn't seem to hear her. He was mesmerized, his attention fixed entirely on the screen. As the videos grew even more bizarre, Zainab felt a sudden urge to look around. She glanced toward the street, half expecting someone to be watching them, but the neighborhood remained as quiet as ever. Still, the sense of unease lingered. She didn't want to admit it, but she felt like they had just uncovered something that they might never be able to understand. It was a part of the unknown, something that existed beyond their comprehension, and yet it held them in its grip. Before Zainab could voice her concerns, the sound of footsteps approaching from outside reached their ears. Panic immediately surged in Joseph's chest. His heart raced, and his palms grew sweaty. They hadn't heard anyone approach, and suddenly, the thought of being caught by their parents made him freeze. He fumbled to close the app, but his hands were shaking, and the volume of the phone unexpectedly increased, filling the quiet room with the distorted voices from the video. "They are coming," Joseph hissed, his voice a frantic whisper. His eyes darted toward the door as he desperately tried to shut off the phone, but it wouldn't cooperate. Zainab's face went pale, and she quickly grabbed his arm, her whisper urgent. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Her mind raced, but there was no clear solution. The door was already opening, and they both knew their parents would be inside in moments. Joseph's heart pounded in his chest as he looked around in a panic for a place to hide the phone. In one swift motion, Joseph shoved the phone under his pillow, hoping that would be enough to conceal it. His breath caught in his throat as they heard the sound of footsteps approaching their room. The door creaked open just a crack, and Mrs. Mensah's voice called out gently from the hallway. "Joseph, are you inside?" She asked, her tone light and friendly, but with a slight note of concern. She had been calling to him for a while now, but he hadn't answered. Joseph held his breath, his mind racing as he tried to steady his rapidly beating heart. Zainab squeezed his hand, both of them exchanging a glance filled with panic and uncertainty. In that brief moment, they both knew that something had changed. There was no going back from this. "Yes, Mama," Joseph replied, forcing a smile, though his voice sounded tight. He hoped she wouldn't notice the unease in his voice, the tension in the room. His heart still raced as Mrs. Mensah's footsteps faded down the hallway, leaving them in a silence that now felt heavy and unsettling. The next day, after a long day at school, Joseph and Zainab couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. The events of the previous evening were still fresh in their minds. They had tried to put it behind them, to go about their usual routines, but the strange app and the bizarre videos haunted their thoughts. The images, the sounds, and the sense of unease were stuck in their heads. No matter how hard they tried, they could not forget what they had seen. As they walked home from school, the air felt heavier than usual. The familiar sights of their neighborhood seemed distant, as though something had changed within them, even if it was hard to put into words. They barely spoke during their walk, both of them lost in their own thoughts. The once light-hearted conversations they had shared on their walks home were replaced with an unspoken understanding that something deeper was unfolding between them. When they reached Joseph's house, the two friends exchanged a glance. They both knew what needed to be done. It was almost as if they had no choice but to return to the strange app, to delve deeper into the mystery they had uncovered. The pull of the unknown was too strong, too compelling to ignore. Joseph felt an almost magnetic attraction to the phone, an urge to see what more it had to offer. As soon as they were sure that Joseph's parents were busy and wouldn't be checking on them, they slipped into his room. The door was locked behind them, and the room was plunged into a silence that felt different now, more intense than before. Joseph sat on the edge of his bed, his fingers trembling slightly as he picked up the phone. Zainab sat beside him, her expression serious, as if she understood the weight of what they were about to do. Joseph hesitated for a moment, glancing at Zainab. "Promise me this stays between us," he said, his voice low. It was the first time he had spoken those words, but they felt necessary. The secrecy, the strange allure of the app, had created a bond between them, a connection that neither of them could explain. They had crossed a line, and there was no turning back. Zainab nodded quickly, her eyes filled with determination. "Of course. Just us," she whispered, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss part 2 of this story.